In this video, we will be looking at some graphing techniques, specifically stretching and shrinking. That's given by this generic equation, y equals a times some function. This f of x is our basic graph. Our first example, we're asked to graph g of x equals 2x squared. Our basic graph that we're going to use is y equals x squared. Let me remind you what that looks like. We have a vertex at the origin, and then going right 1, we go up 1. Going right 2, we go up 4. So let me put a dotted line. This is my basic function. Going left 1, I go up 1, and left 2, I go up 4. So that's my y equal x squared graph that I'm going to stretch. A in this case is 2, which means that I'm going to multiply my basic function f of x by 2. Recall that f of x is the same as y, so basically I'm taking y and multiplying it by 2 to get my values for this graph. My y value at the vertex is 0. When I multiply that by 2, I still have 0. So that point is on my graph. On my basic function, when I went right 1, I went up 1. My y value is 1. But for my graph of g of x, I need to multiply that by 2. So now I'm going to be at 2. Also, when I went left on my basic graph, left 1, up 1, I need to multiply that y value by 2. So for my g of x graph, I'll be at y equals 2. On my basic function, when I went right 2, I was up at 4. So for my g function, I need to double that, multiply by 2. So y value of 4 multiplied by 2 gives me a y value of 8. I go left 2, I was up at 4. Multiply that y value by 2. I'm now going to be at 8. So my graph of the g function is going to look like this. My next example, I'm asked to graph h of x equals 1/4 x squared. Again, my basic function is y equal x squared. Let me put that in as a dotted line. When I go right 1, I go up 1, right 2, up 4, and 0, 0. So this is my basic function on the right side, and then 1 and left 2, up 4, basic function. Now on this one, I'm going to be multiplying my y values by 1/4. Because this, again, remember, is my f of x, and my a value is 1/4. So each of my y values I'm going to multiply by 1/4. 0 here at the vertex multiplied by 1/4 is still 0. So this point is on my graph. When I go right 1 and up 1, I need to take that y value and multiply it by 1/4. So my y value for h of x now is going to be at 1/4. When I went left 1, I went up 1. My y value is 1. For my h of x graph, I need to multiply that by 1/4. So my y value for h of x is going to be 1/4. On my basic function, when I went right 2, I was up at 4. But for my h of x graph, I need to take that y value and multiply it by 1/4. 1/4 times 4 is 1. So for h of x, I'm going to go right 2 and up 1. When I go left 2, I would normally, for my basic graph, be sitting on 4, but I need to multiply that by 1/4. So for my h of x graph, I'll be sitting at 1. So the graph of h of x now goes through these red x's. This is h of x.